Hi everyone, it's your favourite atomic blonde here. And as you can hear, I'm struggling a little bit. I was meant to be out last night, didn't end up going out. Cold, the time of year has finally caught up with me. It's been threatening most of last week, but the cold is finally coming out. My throat is not great, but we'll see how far we can get. And typically, I did end up going out, so I wasn't very well. I went to bed early, dosed myself up, and watched back Spacebook this morning. Absolute cracking show. And to be fair, I'm just going to pretty much touch on that because I obviously didn't get to say what I thought about the Children in Need Doctor Who special skit, whatever you want to call it. So I just was pretty much going to focus on that today and save my voice. So it's probably quite a short one, but we'll see how we go. So let's just pull this up. There we go. Yeah, so obviously anybody who watches this channel knows I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I've been talking about it for weeks, both here and say on the Spacebook on Dan's channel with the gang. And I have been very positive and optimistic about what we're going to get. I was excited for Shooty. I saw an interview, I think maybe on the back of Children in Need, I don't know, but Shooty and Millie, and he was asking her some questions about Doctor Who, like, what was your era? What did you like? Blah, blah. And I love the chemistry between these two. It has the potential to be great. It really does, just based on their chemistry. Shooty seems like a lovely guy. I haven't got anything against him at all. I think he could bring a really interesting dynamic to Doctor Who. So, yeah, but that's... I guess we'll find out at the Christmas special. As we found out the other week, Disney announced the Christmas special, not the BBC. So I'm sure that went down like a lead blue. Or maybe that was planned, who knows. But yeah, we basically, for anybody who's not UK based who watches this channel, it's kind of what you refer to as like a telethon. It's called BBC Children in Need or Children in Need. It's been running since I was a kid. So I think it was like late, I don't think it was the 70s, but I think it's definitely early 80s. It's been running in this country. It's the same week. It's the same like the last Friday, the third Friday of November. So it's all around sort of 16th, 17th, 18th, around that sort of time. And you actually get comedy skits to raise money, and it's normally like specials of popular shows. So it may be something like our soap operas, and they might do a musical number or something like that. And Doctor Who's always had a really close association with this. And when like David Tennant Chris Eccleston regenerated into David Tennant, we got a first clip of that. It's like the first few minutes of the Christmas Invasion episode, or they've done one-off skits where David Tennant done one with the Fifth Doctor, Peter Davidson. I think it's Time Crash. So yeah, over the years they've had exclusives, they've had comedy skits, they've had sort of intros, more serious skits. So it wasn't a massive surprise when we heard that there was going to be a Doctor Who thing this year, given obviously it's the 60th episode next week, the first of the specials. And RTD, Russell T Davies, had come out and said, no, this is a proper little 5 minutes. I've written it. Murray's done the sound. It's not going to be a skit. Now, I think as an audience, we very much take skit as meaning it's going to be a little bit goofy. There's going to be a little bit of comedy in it. It's not really canon or anything like that. But it's there to sort of introduce people to Doctor Who and very light-hearted. So when he came out and said it's not going to be a skit, it's a sort of opener to the specials, we're all incredibly excited. And what we got has absolutely opened a can of worms. Not so much what we got, but what was said afterwards. So it's set on Skaro, which is the planet of the Daleks, where the Daleks were created, and it predates the genesis of the Daleks. Now, everybody who's a Doctor Who fan knows that Davros created the Daleks. He's like the space Mengele, space Nazi Mengele. He deliberately, well, partly through years and years of war and radiation and chemical warfare, the Khalids started to mutate, but obviously Davros done additional experiments that made them into these mutated creatures that live inside the casing and what we all know as Daleks. So, controversy. So this was what I would call a skit. It turned out to be a bit silly. And basically the doctors arrived sort of they got the Mark III machine. It hasn't been named yet. And this is pre-Davros. So anybody that it's kind of been talked about on Doctor Who but never shown. It's explored more in the Big Finish audios, that there was an accident, some sort of explosion in the lab, and that's how Davros ended up disfigured, having to be in this life support chair that keeps him alive, keeps him breathing, all these kind of things. And that's how he ended up So this is set pre to that. So we see Davros as a man, fully able-bodied man. And just so he the doctor crashes in. We then see there's been a conversation between Davros and assistant and what they're going to name him. They just kind of came up with these sort of joke. It's like, it should be an anagram of Khalid, and you come up with these stupid names. So the doctor crashes in, arrives, realizes where he is, and goes, "Oh, that's a Dalek." And the guy goes, "Oh, that's a good name," writes it down. And then he sort of mentions about extermination, exterminate, and go, "Oh, I'm liking this too." And is this the genesis of the Dalek? And he broke one of the arms of the Dalek and then sticks a toilet plunger on it, and that's how we've got the look that we've got. So it's all very so yeah, very disappointed for one. I mean, I don't mind it being jokey and a skit, or jokey if it was publicized as it's going to be a typical children in need skit, but I think our expectations were very high. It was going to be something serious. It was going to be a lead into the specials. So yeah, so this, just to move on. So obviously this is Davros as we know him after the accident. This is the same actor who's a great actor and done a very good job with the materials that he had. He absolutely stole the show. And nobody in principle has any issues with this. Seeing Davros pre-accident, I think, is a story that as Doctor Who, like say, it's been touched on in various novels and Big Finish. I think it'd be great to sort of see, the accident and what happened and all those kind of things. So no one has an issue with that. What's actually exploded today is the Doctor Who Unleashed, which is like the equivalent of when we used to get Doctor Who Confidential, so behind the scenes. Russell basically have sort of said that modern audiences, modern views, everything we can't stand. It's not appropriate to have the villain in a wheelchair. And it's not okay that there's a trope that disabled people are always portrayed as bad. Now, there's some truth in that, I guess, in that there are characters out there, Darth Vader, Davros, who are evil, so evil, but it's not because of their disabilities. I mean, you basically got a space Nazi who creates this killing machine, and he was a space Nazi before the accident. He wasn't like this really nice guy who's going about his business, and because of the thing that happened to him, warped him and made him an evil person. He was always an evil person, So this kind of the disability is what makes the person attitude. I just don't get. And there's obviously there's positive disabled role models out there. Look at Professor X, right? And you've got lots of things out there where people have got a disability, or like Daredevil, he's blind, but he's also, fights for injustice and things like that. So the two don't necessarily go hand in hand, I don't think. But I think, so people are kind of annoyed that he's come out and said, well, again, I'm sort of changing the focus, and we shouldn't have villains who are disabled. I don't know. This all kind of comes back to ideology. And again, like, you know, you can't show women in a bad light. You can't show people of color in a bad light now. You can't show disabled people in a bad light. So the only evil people there are in the world, it always comes down to are white people. And that's kind of, you know, people getting fed up with that. And to be fair, that's kind of offensive. Just because you're white doesn't make you evil. I know, controversial. But when you start putting these kind of blockers on writing, you know, this is why our writing's so bad, because they don't reflect human beings. No human being is wholly good or wholly bad. Okay, there are some wholly bad people out there, but in the main, none of us are perfect. You know, we have flaws, we have, you know, things that don't necessarily make us nice human beings sometimes, but that's because we're human beings. You know, we're not, I think we need to take ourselves off our pedestals and, you know, write characters as people are. And that's why people can't relate to modern characters, because they're all so blooming, oh, I'm great and I just got greater without even having to try because I'm just great. People aren't like that. And I thought that was very, very disappointing, is that what I've got on here on the screen is this guy sent a message to Russell on Instagram. And again, people who watch this channel know I'm a huge Russell T Davies fan. That's why I've kind of been championing this, to say it's given the benefit of the doubt. Yes, he's quite political, but he can also sort of rein it in. And he's and first and foremost, it's about story, which seems to be now he's contradicting himself. It's first and foremost about, it seems to be, you know, a bit of ideology. And I'm going to tell this type of story about ideology as opposed to characterization. So anyway, this guy wrote a very respectful and polite message, and sort of saying, like, Davros isn't a wheelchair user. He's a partially mutated Khalid in a life support system, which I said I've never thought of him in a wheelchair. This thing keeps him alive. We don't even know if he's got legs, you know. This accident was pretty bad. Like, I was perfectly fine seeing Davros pre-accident, which I completely agree with. I think a lot of fans have wanted to see this for some time, but to insist that this is for better representation of disabled people is just utterly bizarre. If we're now going to pretend, as you suggest, Davros was never in the chair or he just got better, well, that undermines one of the greatest villains who was ever created. Now, that's I think, very respectful. Here's my opinion, just trying to understand where you're going with this, Russell. I'm also a bit surprised, because you're such a huge Doctor Who fan. You know, undoing such a fundamental piece of characterization is just a bit mind-blowing to us Doctor Who fans. Now, Russell Davies is I think, a very clever man. He's very good with words and can articulate himself very well. So to come back with such a flippant reply as tough doesn't look good. Now, this has ruffled a lot of feathers because of the reasons why. I think if he just come out and said, like, we all know there was a time before the accident, I want him to explore that character. How much did he change? Was he always as evil as he? Because I think that's the thing to show, is actually he was always that evil, bitter and twisted before he ever got into the accident. The accident of being in the life support chair is not the reason he's the personality that he is. He was a horrible person before and he was a horrible person after. I think that's what the dialogue could have been or should be. But again, to sort of go, oh, I'm going to write this wrong and I'm going to champion this, and if you don't like it, tough to the fans. I think he spent far too much time with Disney execs, it sounds like. He's always been like pretty good with the fans, and, you know, sort of said, yeah, you may like this, you may not like this, but trust me, it's coming from a good place. And like I say, most people give him the benefit of the doubt, but when you start talking to fans like this, and this guy's being very polite, he's not swearing, he's not calling him any names, he's just like, I just don't really understand where you're going with this for such an important character in Doctor Who, is massively disappointing, and I think quite upsetting to a lot of the fan base. And obviously, I've seen a lot of comments on X this morning. Not surprising, Davros is trending, and I think this is just the worst thing that could have happened a week before the launch of these specials that has been so much buzz about and people were excited about. Apprehensive, like myself, I was still like, don't blow this. Russell's got the potential to write 3 of the best specials we've ever seen, but just dial it down to 11 on the politics, please. And I think we were all sort of, sorry, I can't speak for everybody. I was vocally optimistic about this. Now, saying what he's saying, and just for me, it's more the response to the fan, just saying tough, I find very disappointing. I've always had more time for him than that. Like I say, he tends to be a bit more, articulate, or I respect your opinion, but I don't agree with it, and this is why. But now he just seems to have turned into like every other exec at the BBC or Disney, who, my opinion is the right opinion, and you're all, not worth my time if you don't agree with me. And for someone that has championed, I say LGBT rights over the years before the rest joined, and he's always been very vocal about that. So some of the things he's saying and the stance he's taking are the same things he would have said 30, 40 years ago. So I remember the controversy when they put the first gay character in EastEnders, which is a massive soap opera over here. Probably not as big as it used to be, but in the 80s, this thing brought in like 20 million viewers a week. It was absolutely huge. And you're hearing the same sort of rhetoric that we're hearing now around the trans bows. That shouldn't be on TV, it shouldn't be in a family show, it shouldn't be represented, blah, blah, blah. And obviously he was very vocal back then, and has been over the years, that, well, it's, there are gay people in society and they do live on your street, and yes, they should be in the Rover's Return or the Queen Vic or whatever soap you're watching. And obviously over time that has changed. Now, he's obviously making the same argument for this new character, that trans people do exist and they probably, might exist in your street and blah, blah, blah. Now, I think obviously the numbers are a lot less than gay people. I'm not saying they shouldn't be represented, but I'm not sure going in hobnail boots on the 60th was probably the best way to go. But again, I say I'm very open to the characterization, how it's told, whether this person can act. If she's good and the character's good, I don't really care, what her biology is or her sexual orientation. I couldn't care less if she's good. If she's not good and the character is superficial, tokenized, and it's just about running around saying that they're a transgender person, then that's just lazy. And I'd be very, very disappointed if RTD done something like that. I don't think he would. Well, I'd like to think, because he was always story first, but then the comments he's just made about more representation, and I know there's a disabled person in the specials as well. I can't remember the actress's name, I do apologize, but she was in the UK Office back in the day and had one of the best skits ever when there's the fire drill. And they kind of carry her halfway down the stairs in the wheelchair, and they're just basically like knackered. So they think Brendan just leave her on the stairs and go, oh, don't worry, it's just a drill, and just bugger off outside, which is exactly something that would happen in an office, let's face it. And she was a great character in that, and a good actress. So again, I don't think anybody sort of go like roll. Well, I'd like to think no one's rolling their eyes because he's cast someone who's an established disabled actress in this, right? Why would we? So, you've already got that. So, but, the issue everybody has is this unwinding of something established to say, you can't have that now. And I don't think, I don't know, it's very easy for me to say I'm not a disabled person, but some people might argue with that. But I've never judged people by. I don't look at a person of color and go, well, they must be bad because they're a person of color, because they play a pimp on TV. TV is TV. It's not reality, right? And we seem to have lost this whole. It's fiction. They're fictionalized characters. And quite often they're over the top and they're the worst of us, and they can also be the best of us. And sometimes you watch characters and go, nobody's that virtuous, nobody's that good, because we aren't. But you need those heroes, you need those virtuous people. And I think the reason the character of the Doctor is so popular is that in the main, yes, he is quite virtuous and he tries to do the right thing, but there's a lot of layers to him. By Capaldi's era, I think he's supposed to be about 2,000 years old. You cannot live that long and not make mistakes. Or, he's suffered from PTSD from the Time War. And I think that's a really good element to bring in. That's something that people can relate to. And you couldn't go through that and be exactly the same person you were after the Time War as you were before the Time War. Again, that would be very disingenuous. So, bringing in those layers and those elements is great characterization. And PTSD is something that's, existed through, for a very long time, but we didn't know what it was. In the First World War, people who had what they would call shell shock, which we know now is PTSD, were treated appallingly and were often, went to prison or were shot as, deserters because, they had this mental condition that they just didn't understand back then, and we understand it better now. But does that mean that, we shouldn't write anything in the First World War anymore because these people weren't treated properly, and we know what the condition is now, so therefore we can't really show it? There's going to be a point where we can't write anything about anybody, and we just have we're already seeing these completely vacuous characters that we can't relate to because they don't behave like human beings. So I'm really like, I don't want to base my view on the specials based on a 4 or 5 minute skit on children in need. I think it was the absolute vehicle to get people back and interested in Doctor Who, give them a taster of what was coming up, do something a bit more serious, and that opportunity was completely wasted. And people were looking at that going, it's just that, because in one breath, the other article the other day from one of the producers saying Doctor Who's not a kid's show, and it's not. It's always been a family show that you can sit down together as adults and watch it on one level. On another level, as kids, you just have, scare the bejesus out of you. And that was great. That was fantastic watching it as a family show. And again, they come back and because they're saying, why is it on so late? I mean, it's 6:30. I mean, that's not late. I mean, God, kids don't go to bed much before 8 o'clock these days. So we put it on at 6:30 isn't exactly late. But I think they're sort of saying, the content is probably going to be. But I think the 2005 was, the content was always sort of a little bit more, I won't say aimed at, but it's a family show. So there's been criticism about that, which I think is completely unfounded because, it was never just aimed at kids. It was always like adults and children could watch this. And that's why it was so popular. So we've kind of had that. So, it's going to be on at 6:30. And I think that was kind of, again, having a trans character in there. That's why I say, it's not a kid's show. And it's not. I just, given the state of the show and the fact that it was being cancelled till RTD came in, you'd think they'd just be a little bit more mindful that the fans are quite battered and bruised how they were treated through the Jodie era. You've lost a lot of fans, and even bringing David Tennant back isn't going to bring those fans back. And rather than just sort of trying to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, like, BBC, RTD, give the fans a bit of a doubt. They're all a bit oversensitive. We're all a bit bruised and battered. And rather just kind of like just maybe giving just a purely entertaining, I want to say classic Doctor Who time travel sci-fi story. That's all anybody wants, right? We just want to be entertained again. And you think they could go in a little bit more softer, give a little bit of fan service. And it just seems like, I'm not going to give the fans what they want. I'm going to give them what they need attitude that's very Disney. And Russell seems to be leaning into this, which I find just because I know he's such a huge Doctor Who fan, and hence why he came back, that he didn't want to see the show cancelled. But again, we've not seen the specials. I don't know the content. They could be 100% just entertainment. Don't know. I'm still hoping that is going to be the case. I think everything we're hearing, there is definitely going to be some sort of politics ideology in here. But there was in his first run. But like I say, it just didn't come around and slap you in the face with it. So I think as long as he doesn't go all in, people will be there. But I just, maybe people, including myself, are overreacting to this children in need thing. But like I say, we've been beaten up a lot for voicing our opinions on Doctor Who. And I've been called some terrible names because I didn't like Jodie Whittaker. As a woman, you're a woman hater, you're internalized misogynist, I was like, she's just not a very good actress, sorry, in my opinion. And I say that's just my opinion. You might think she deserves an Oscar or a Golden Globe or a BAFTA, and that's your opinion. And I'm not saying that's your view, that's fine. I'm not stopping you from having that view. So you don't have to pile in on me, because I just have never rated her as a good actress, even in Broadchurch. I was never lots of people going, oh, she's amazing. I was like, she's all right. She plays a moody cow, okay. Never been. But likewise, I've never personally gone in on the woman. I don't know her. I'm sure she's a very nice person, and I know she's good friends with David Tennant, and all well and good. But that did make my eyes roll, I have to say, when he comes out the TARDIS and goes, a minute ago I was a brilliant woman, and now I'm this. Why did you have to put brilliant on it? Like, this kind of reinforcement that, she was actually really good and you all just didn't get it. Why can't you just say, bloody hell, I was a woman 10 minutes ago and now I'm this? Why just put brilliant on there? When it gets to, again, that just flies in the face of what everybody's been saying. Now, again, if you think Jodie's brilliant, fine, don't have an issue with you. You love that series, you want to rewatch it, you feel your boots. I personally don't. And that's fine. I have no issues with anybody liking Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who. If you got something out of it, I'm happy for you. It's hard to find shows that we love these days. It's hard to find shows that entertain us, and it entertains you. I don't have an issue with that. It just wasn't my cup of tea. So yeah, I was a brilliant woman. I'd say we can't just be women anymore. We just have to be brilliant women or extraordinary women, or I don't know. I just say, women are women and we're as flawed as men. But I'm obviously very old-fashioned in that view. So I don't know. It's just sort of taken the wind out the sails. I was so excited for the specials and Ncuti and just a few. And in some ways, it's not even what Russell's saying. I mean, even though it does sort of jar a little, it's this adoption of just, if you don't like it, you can jog on attitude that he's adopted. And he never used to be rude to the fans. I get it and he has every right to defend himself when people call him names because of his sexuality or go in on him because he's a gay man. He's got every right to defend himself. And those people, need to have a reality check. But just to go in on fans because they, were like, we're not comfortable with this, or why would you take such an iconic character and change it and overlay politics that just isn't there? And maybe it is there for some people. Again, I've seen some responses on X that sort of say, well, I'm disabled, I'm glad that you've recognized this trope, Russell. And again, if that but and I can't speak for them, and they're in better positions to speak than I am. But then likewise, I've also seen people who are disabled or work with disabled people who are fuming, like Scottish Davros. Hi Daniel, big fan. And he has every right to be, because again, this modern attitude is that you speak for everybody. Like I say, I tried to make, this is what I think. I'm not saying all women think this or all women should even think this. I might be the minority. I might be the only woman on the planet that thinks this way, but that's my opinion. And it really jars me when you got people putting out these blanket statements saying women think this, or women think this about men, and women don't want to see this, and women don't want. I'm like, who the frick are you to say what I do and don't want to watch? How dare you? Or what I want to read, or what I find offensive. And to be fair, I don't find many things offensive because I'm not an oversensitive nut job. Yeah, it's I'm Generation X. It takes a lot to rattle us, right? So I don't know. I just feel like there's a bit of tarnish now, and just the wind's gone out the sails a little bit. Certainly listen to the team on Facebook and people's opinions. I really value and often agree with, but don't always agree with, because I think Ian and I differ quite a lot on. I'm much more positive about this, and he's not, and that's absolutely fine, because it's great to hear what he has to say. And sometimes he'll sort of, say, I think this because of X, Y, and Z, and I go, yeah, actually, you've got a point there. I hadn't thought about it that way. And that's why it's so important to talk to people who have different views to yourself. But just to see them all so deflated last night, or when I watched it back this morning, I'm actually gutted I couldn't make the show either way, because I was meant to be out. I didn't go out because I've got this cold, and I didn't even get a chance to watch it last night, so gutted about that. So I've been kind of rambling and waffling on about this, I'm just a bit I mean, of course I'm still going to watch the specials. I'm still hoping that they're going to be good. I just don't think this Children Need precursor was maybe pitched right in terms of telling us what it was going to be. And certainly I think Russell coming out and it wasn't the time or the place to say it. I think just let it land, see how it did, see how the specials do, and then you can come back and say, well, I'm glad I kind of had this view in mind, and this is why I did it that way. And if there's a bit of goodwill behind the show at that point, maybe okay, don't agree with you, but I think just to go out and kick the fans the week before the specials are due to come out is very disappointing. That's all I can say. So I guess we'll have to watch and wait and see what happens next Saturday. Obviously on Thursday, as I said last week, we've got the colorization of the first Dalek episode from William Hartnell's era, The First Doctor, and always will be. Looking forward to that, and hopefully that will bring a little bit of cheer and goodwill back. I think at this point, with a week to go, just talk about the show, keep the opinions to yourselves. Don't bite. You just, if the fans aren't happy, the fans aren't happy. Just let them vent, but just don't just stick to just talking about the show. And try, just don't rattle people's cages. It's just, why? Get a bit goodwill going before, I don't know. Just please entertain us. That's all we want. Just give us some sci-fi entertainment. So yes, 25th, the Star Beast. Let's see where we land. Cool. So that's really all I wanted to talk about. I'm afraid it's getting a bit sore. I did do it a little, as you saw, by accident. It's 2 weeks running I've done it now. I just put a couple of, obviously I spoke about these the other week that they were coming up. I've watched the first episode of each of these. I'm pleased to report both first episodes were good. And the season 4 reviews for Mankind are coming in quite very strong. People just saying, must watch, this show is like really intelligent, which it is. And obviously we've moved along again, and it looks like the sort of glasnost type thing is starting to happen in Russia. This is probably like a couple of decades later than it happened in our timeline. But again, sort of seeing how the characters' lives are sort of playing out. So do go check out For All Mankind. I've got a few more people into it now. So keep banging my drum on this one. So do go watch it. It's very well written, great characterization, and not about ideology. So even though it's kind of perceived that way, it's really not. And Lazarus, I've watched the first episode, so now they're stuck in a perpetual time loop. The time keeps resetting 3 weeks before the event where the world's destroyed, and that's kind of a race against time to find the scientists who potentially created this event, but they're all being killed one by one, and they need to try and find or save some of these scientists to try and stop this event from happening. Again, kind of characterizations moving on. I'm really looking forward to where this story is going to go. The main character is quite an interesting one. This black guy. Because he's not perfect in it. He really isn't. And I think he tries to do the right thing. but doesn't necessarily go about it in the right way. And he has a bit of a tough time with it, and things still aren't going well for him. But I do really like the characterization of this guy. You know, he's just a normal guy thrust into really mind-bending events, and he doesn't find his feet particularly well, and he makes some really bad choices, you know, like blowing up the world, as you do. As his girlfriend is killed, so he ends the world, so time will reset to save her. But this then has some serious consequences, and then the world keeps ending. So yeah, very good. Obviously, if you've got Now, all episodes are on there. I think it's being shown weekly on Sky. So, but again, say if you like your sci-fi, your timey whinies, check out the Lazarus Project. It's yeah, something a little bit different. So good stuff. But say please report. Both first episodes are good. It's all dropped on Now TV, so I will continue to work my way through the Lazarus Project, as I think I just will be sitting on the sofa with Lemsip today and not doing a lot of talking or anything really. Yeah, I'm sort of a bit warm at the moment, probably a little bit flushed. Anywho, apologies if the screen's not that great. I've had problems with the internet all week, and I've been onto Virgin Media, who keep telling me there's nothing wrong. And I'm like, so why does my internet keep dropping out? And then, oh, there is an issue. Sorry, yes, there is. It should be fixed by now. And I'm like, well, but it's still a bit iffy. So apologies if the quality's not great. Hopefully the sound's fine, which is the most important thing. So anyway, I'm going to call it there, guys. So short and sweet. Sunday lunch for you. Have a great week. And as always, you know what's coming. Like, share, and subscribe. Do let me know your thoughts. Has this Russell T Children thing rattled your cage as much as the other Doctor Who fans and mine, for that matter? Are you still looking forward to the specials, or are you tagged out again now? Are you done? Love to know. I will say I will be watching. Or even if the first one's bad, I will watch all three, and just see where it goes. So I will be back hopefully next week, hopefully without a cold and a not so croaky voice. Yeah, to talk to you about the Star Beast and other things that I have been watching. So take care. Hope you don't have colds. As we obviously career towards December and Christmas. So that's a whole other world of busyness. So anyway, as I said, have a great week. Let me know what you're thinking. And yeah, I will be hopefully... Oh, wrong button. Back next week. You take care. Bye-bye.